What's going on, good people? Rich here.
It's your girl, Ray P. Welcome back to another episode of the Culture Garden Podcast. What's going on, Rich?
Hey, it's slow motion. I just noticed because I'm not home right now. I'm catching. By the time you're listening to this episode, I'll either be in New York City or be on a flight to New York City. Or if you're listening late, I might be back in Ohio by that time.
This nigga that went from no trips to New York in the last 2 years. Now he doubling back already. Okay.
And I plan on going back in December. I ain't gonna hold you. Carolina plays in the Garden in December, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to make that happen. I'm going to Carolina a few times, so get ready, Rachel, because
Okay.
I'll be. We'll talk. I've already mentioned my idea, but also I'm
Yeah,
very excited for this Carolina Tar Heels basketball team.
for
Very
sure.
excited for this season, and
For
I
sure.
gotta go back to Chapel Hill and watch a couple games. And I
Yeah.
can't be in North Carolina and not pull up on Ray P. The last time I was in Charlotte, you weren't there, but that was years ago.
Yeah. I was
Yeah,
gonna
that was
say this time,
2019.
but I
Yeah, this
wouldn't.
time I got you. I got you. Well, was about to say, man, we appreciate y'all for tuning
For
in.
sure.
Thank you. Always excited to come back and listen to movies, man. You can tell it's late.
Right.
Always excited to discuss another movie with you, Rachel. And I was just saying, I'm looking. The whole point of that whole New York thing was I'm looking at the screen right now. I notice I got my big headphones on. I
Mm-hmm.
normally don't wear these when we record. I normally wear my earpods, but I'm all discombobulated, so I look kind of goofy as hell with these big headphones on, and without you having any. But you got the big earrings, so we good.
Hey, listen, y'all
I
know
know
I'm
they want.
a girl.
I know they want it, and it wasn't big ass earrings.
Shout out to ATL.
Shout out to ATL. Shout out to Keith David, who's in the movie we were discussing
For
today. But
sure.
like I
Legend.
said, thank you, absolutely, man. Thank you for tuning in. Shout out to all the other podcasts that we are a part of. It's funny because I was talking to Rachel before we started recording. There's going to be the conversation. I teased it on Another Week in the Books, the episode that's going to drop Friday. But there's a conversation that I've been planning, and
Mhm.
once we do this, I'm very excited to have it. We'll have more for that on the way. But Rachel will be a part of it, so look for her soon on Another Week in the Books.
Hey.
Please remember to like, subscribe, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. Our link tree is in our episode description. And if you watch us on YouTube, then just check the actual description for our email or Instagram. Follow us on social media, and then you can have our link tree access through there because YouTube doesn't let me post links for some reason. So just make sure you check that out. Also, if you watch on YouTube, listen to our pod on audio form because you'll hear our Denzel intro. That's another thing I haven't really configured into the video yet, but my producer skills are on the rise. I've been working on a few things, so we want to come up. We want to come up. Shout out to everyone and prayers for everyone who has been affected by Hurricane Milton and all the tropical storms. Rachel, I know you're in Carolina.
Mhm.
Thankfully, you're okay. You're safe. Your
Yeah,
property's good, but obviously not terribly far. People lost everything, and it's a
for sure.
crazy time.
For sure. It's so crazy. So y'all know I do live in Charlotte. We had some power and some power outages and trees down. But today I was actually, well, all this week I've been in different parts of North Carolina, and I have a colleague who is in Asheville,
Mm,
and her partner was with me today, and showing me the carnage essentially from our other colleague. And it was truly, truly, truly devastating. And so just prayers to everybody up there and everybody in Florida recovering from Helene and Milton, which hit yesterday. So just, prayers up.
absolutely, absolutely. Especially our guy Mo. Mo's down there in the Tampa area, not in the evac zone, but he is down there.
Okay.
So I think they lost power and all that kind of stuff. So it might be a couple days before he's online. But shout out to Mo, man, and everybody else down there
Um,
affected. Prayers out to you sincerely. Um, all right, if you're watching on YouTube, you are not tripping. Rachel and myself did switch spots because I did take those big ass headphones off and change to my earbuds. And in the meantime, we got switched up. But as we said, shout out to everybody and prayers for everybody down there
for
affected
sure.
by the recent weather, recent natural disasters.
For sure.
Before we get into today's episode, there will be spoilers and there will be explicit content. As you can see from the title, we are discussing 21 Bridges.
Hey.
Some people haven't seen this or aren't even necessarily familiar with it. So I'm
Mhm.
excited to go ahead and talk about it and have a conversation on it. As far as the synopsis for the film goes, an embattled NYPD detective is thrust into a citywide manhunt for a pair of cop killers after uncovering a massive and excuse me, unexpected conspiracy.
Mhm.
Once again, it's late, y'all, man. Don't mind me. I promise I can read. Um, I mentioned this is my week to pick a movie.
Mhm.
So I chose 21 Bridges. It was this, and I'm laughing about the other movie I almost chose, which is a football movie, but
Which we
very
will record.
yeah. We absolutely going to record that. But I did see some kind of documentary or something. I can't even remember what platform it was on about that story a little bit more, and I want to kind of watch that and get a better
Mhm.
idea of what the real side of things were. You might know what we're talking about just from us explaining this, but we'll tuck that, and we're actually going to do that probably soon. That is
Okay.
something I want to do soon, especially the season that it is. It
Yeah.
kind of fits. Um, that's going to be a funny, entertaining, unserious slash serious episode. But I chose 21 Bridges just because when I first moved to Cleveland, I was on a roll. Like when I'm talking about first move, like I'm still building furniture type shit.
Mhm.
And I was just in a actually we did the Equalizer. That was the same time we did the Equalizer, and
Mhm.
I was watching that, and I was in that kind of genre of film.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Let me watch 21 Bridges because it's been a while with Chadwick, of course, and I remember watching it back in May or whatever it was and just being thoroughly entertained.
Mhm.
Not really, I kind of forgot the ending and how much I didn't like the ending that much,
Mhm.
but I still wanted to talk about this type of film because it is thoroughly entertaining. I'm going to tie it into The Negotiator and kind of have a moment with that because it gives you the same type of vibe. They're from the same tree.
Mhm.
And I think there's a little, I was noticing that when I watched this preparing for this episode. So I wanted to talk about Chadwick, wanted to talk about 21 Bridges. It really makes me sad every time we mention Chadwick because
Yeah. What a loss.
obviously what a loss just as a human being, but also from the acting perspective. I think we had this conversation when we did the Equalizer.
Mhm.
I think you and I had a conversation about who is that next black actor that can fill that Denzel role, who could play
Mm.
like the military slash officers kind of role that Denzel's done for so many years. Um, and Chadwick was it. And I'm looking at this movie and I'm just like, man, there are moments when you can swap out him and Denzel and it could be the same type of thing.
Mhm.
Obviously, this film isn't to the same level, but a lot of what makes it enjoyable is because of Chadwick and the way he delivers his performance.
For sure.
So I thought it would be a good movie to discuss. As far as the stats go, it was released in theaters November 22nd, 2019. So it will almost be 5 years old. The day prior to, why does this keep showing up? I almost did this last week. An extra note keeps popping up in my description and it's messing me up. It was directed by Brian Kirk. You wouldn't know him from a ton of stuff. He did a lot of television, directed an episode of Dexter, three episodes of Game of Thrones. So mostly TV stuff, nothing from the film world. It was written by Andy Mervis and Matthew Michael Carnahan. If you've seen State of Play, which I actually own with Russell Crowe and Leonardo DiCaprio, he wrote that, and World War Z. I think that was Tom Cruise. Was that Brad Pitt? I don't know. One of them end of the world movies. He wrote that as well. Had a budget of an estimated 33 million and it grossed $49.9 million worldwide.
Okay.
Remember, I know, right? This is 2019, so movies weren't even staying in the theater like that. They were still trying to figure out the whole streaming thing. $9.2 million the opening weekend. It opened up at number 4 in the box office, behind Frozen 2, Ford versus Ferrari, and A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood, which is the Mr. Rogers story.
Love that movie.
Yeah, it stayed. 21 Bridges stayed in the top 10 for 4 weeks and was in the theater for 9 weeks. So
Okay.
not a bad run. And it is currently streaming on Netflix if you are looking to watch it now. As far as awards, there were no wins, but there were 2 nominations, one of them being for Outstanding Actor for the NAACP Image Awards. Obviously, Chadwick was nominated but did not win. And before we get into classic or not, I want to give a rundown of the cast. We talked about the late, great Chadwick Boseman as Andre Davis, his last theatrical performance. This is the last film of his, unfortunately, that actually made the theaters. He did have two other releases after this, The Five Bloods and
I think, what,
Ma
3?
Rainey's Black Ma
Oh,
Rainey's Black Bottom. So
mhm.
they released, but they released on Netflix and not in theaters. So this was
Yeah.
his last theatrical release. We have Sienna Miller as Frankie Burns, J.K. Simmons as Captain McKenna. I meant
Legend.
to look, yeah, absolutely. I meant to look this up because we did this when we did If Bill Street Could Talk. I cannot remember if it's Steven, Stephen, or Stefan James as Michael Trulio. Same guy to play Fonnie.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I messed up his name, or I feel like I might have messed him up when we did that episode. I'm sure it's one of those threes. My apologies, because we are big fans of your work and your talent. That's an error on me for not properly looking up how to pronounce your name. Taylor Kitsch as Ray Jackson. Shout out to Taylor Kitsch. If you are a Friday Night Lights fan, you know that's Tim Riggins. Clear Eyes, Full Heart, Can't Lose. And then you have Keith David, as we mentioned earlier, the legend, absolute legend, Keith David. I think Rachel, and this is not an official count, I think Keith David has been in the most movies that we talked about on Culture Garden.
In the lowest of keys.
Yeah, because we made the ATL reference. We're doing this film. He had a scene in Crash. He was in Dead Presidents. He was in Barbershop. That's 5 right there. And I know I'm missing some. I know
Mhm.
there's some other movies that he's been a part of. So shout out to Keith David, man. One of the people that we started this podcast for, so people like him could get his flowers.
For
Ray
sure.
P,
Yes.
you gonna say something? My
I
bad.
was just gonna say I went to Google real quick, but it doesn't say in his Wikipedia, it doesn't give the pronunciation. So it's an
Mm,
A-N, so it might be Stefan or Stefan, but he's Canadian, so it might be Stefan.
it might be Stephen. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna do this in real time. Stephen, that's what it is.
Stephen James.
Stephen James. Shout out to Google.
Shout out.
Stephen James, shout out to you. But Ray P,
Yes.
classic or not?
I'm not gonna give it classic, but it's a cool movie. It's a good movie for what it is. But
You're
I'm
absolutely
not
right.
I'm not gonna give it a classic. And as you were reading all of the stats, I'm very surprised, and I know that we'll get there. I do recall my first time seeing this movie.
Oh, really?
Yes, on a plane. And I had never heard anything about it leading up to me seeing it on a flight. And so I was like, "Oh, Chadwick, let me check this black movie out." And was pleasantly surprised. And when you say Frozen 2, I remember the release of that. I obviously remember the release of
Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood.
the neighborhood, about to say Mr. Rogers.
Of course, you know we gotta black it up.
Exactly. But I had no idea that this was even released in the theaters. And after I saw it on the plane, I was like, I've got to find this movie. And I initially thought you were going to mention, I think it's called Three Kings or something, that Chadwick released around the same time between Black.
Oh, the he was in I can't
He
remember
was
what exact
in South
ethnicity.
Africa.
Africa. He was in Africa. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Exactly.
Three Kings is the name of the movie with Ice Cube and George Clooney.
Oh,
Uh, shout out to you, man. It's all good. It's all good, man. That's what we're here for.
shout out to Black
What was
King.
the Yeah, man. Shout out to Black Kings. What was the name of that movie? I know exactly what you're
I
talking
don't
about.
know.
Keep going, and I'm gonna look it up for you.
It was something about a king.
And wait, nigga, it was in South Africa. It wasn't no damn Brooklyn.
Okay. Fair.
All week. Why
is he
it was
laying?
after.
Oh no.
It was after Marshall. All right, we're gonna figure this out in real
We gonna
time.
figure it out before we wrap this up. But that's what I was thinking, because he was doing that sort of action, getting into that Denzel Equalizer, good cop, bad cop role prior to his untimely passing. So that's where I initially thought. I had completely forgotten about the Five Bloods, which he was only in for like 2 seconds, and
right.
And Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So shout out to that. Shout out to Chadwick. I love this movie, although it's not a classic to me, but very good.
I love everything you said. I,
Good.
I always love hearing your descriptions on your thought process behind classic and just those little moments about you trying to recall the movie. It's Message from the King.
See, I knew it was a king in there.
You're absolutely right. Message from the King. Rated slightly. Well, I know we'll get to the ratings at the end of this episode. Rated very slightly below this movie.
Hmm.
In the same vein as you said, kind of
Hmm.
that officer, and that's what I kind of alluded to earlier when I said taking on that Denzel role, where Pelican Brief, Training Day, ton of different movies where Denzel's played that kind of role. All right, so here's the interesting thing about the classic or not conversation. And before I even get into that, to your point, Rachel, it is one of those films that doesn't even seem like it released in theaters. You know what? It feels like something when you're scrolling on Stars and
What?
you see that movie, you just see a random movie where Tyrese is the cop and
Yep.
he's on the cover.
Yep.
And then you might see another person that like I can't even think of anybody off the top of my head, but somebody but you're like that come out in the theaters, like it's just random.
That part.
Like the old girl, I can't remember her name. She's in all the Fast and Furious movies. Either
Rodriguez.
way, yes, like her. That seems like a movie you just see. Like, damn, when did this come out? Let me check this out.
Yeah.
And it's also, to your point, it's also a perfect plane movie.
For sure. For sure.
99 minutes. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, and the fact that you said it was that 2019, if you would have told me this shit came out in 2016, I'd have been like, oh, okay, well, that make more sense why I didn't really hear about it like that. Straight to Fly Delta.
Yeah. Straight up. That's what it feels like. That's honestly what it feels like. But here's the thing about the classic or not conversation, Rachel.
Yeah.
I mentioned The Negotiator. And if you've been listening to us from day one, then you know I love the film The Negotiator. We haven't discussed it yet on here. It's a conflicting moment almost because, and this kind of ties into the conversation Rachel and myself and some other people are going to have on Another Week in the Books. But obviously Kevin Spacey's got countless weird cases. And it almost feels weird to discuss how much you love something when you have somebody who played, even though it's acting and it's art, you're still looking at somebody who has done some like horrible, despicable things that you're not proud of. So it's one of those things where I want to talk about it and we'll have the conversation one day. It's just whenever that mood is right and it seems cool. But I'm not saying 21 Bridges is a Negotiator, but it's the same family tree.
For sure.
It's the same officer. Something weird is going on here. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. You know how the movie's gonna end.
Yeah.
Like nothing really shocks you. They damn near end the same way when you think about the two.
About it, yeah.
And it made me think either this has to be a classic or Negotiator's not a classic. And I don't know how I feel about that because The Negotiator, is it a good movie or is it just an entertaining movie? It's got great acting. Is it a classic? I would say it's a classic, though I think everybody else would. I don't know. But it's hard for me to say Negotiator is a classic when I can't, other than Samuel L. Jackson and Paul Giamatti bodied that role in Negotiator. And it is a different premise with the whole cop versus cop thing. But this has that too. I don't know. I've been really struggling with this, Rachel. I've really been struggling with where this falls.
Is it nostalgia for The Negotiator?
It's 100% nostalgia because it's so 90s. Like it's so late 90s.
Yeah.
But when you go back and rewatch it, it's entertaining. I can't necessarily say it's good, but it has everything in. Let me make sure I'm clear on this. Everything that Kyrie and Dean Richardson Jr., everything that I enjoy in a good turn it on, and it's never going to get better. It's never going to get worse. I know exactly what it is. I know exactly what to expect. I know what mood I'm going to be in when I watch it. I know what mood I need to be in to put it on. And it's one of those films for me. And this is the same. It's not great, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love The Negotiator, but it's not a great movie. It's a good one. I'm going to say it's not a classic because it doesn't feel right saying it's a classic. I feel like I'm giving it away. And, our rule of thumb is really if you got to think that long about it, then chances are it's not a classic. Classic should be a no-brainer. Very entertaining. if I made my own, if my list was the only list that mattered, then yes, I would call it a classic. But nah, I can't give it to it. And that means I probably won't give it to The Negotiator, but I'll rewatch The Negotiator and see how I feel.
About it. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do the same. It's very interesting that you just said it's not gonna get better, it's not gonna get worse. I know what kind of mood. I'll have to tell you, I ended up randomly rewatching Crooklyn. And
Mm.
we talked about Crooklyn, we kicked its back in,
Oh yeah, we did.
especially me. And maybe I just was in a bad mood. Cause I watched it the other day and I was like, damn, I love Crooklyn, which is how I have always felt about this movie. And so I wonder how much my mood was affected by whatever. But I still stand by, like, it's the nostalgia of it because it's not great, but it's just something about it that just feels good. So I'm not totally taking back everything I said when we discussed Crooklyn, but shout out to AJ.
Shout out to AJ. You know that's the first person I think of. And yeah. Go ahead. Were you gonna say something else?
Nope, shout out to Crooklyn.
We just talked about that last week too.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about the last week, and I think about Christina as well because we definitely dog. I think she said she was a fan of Crooklyn, and we had the whole last Black Man in San Francisco conversation. We talked about last week about how a lot of these movies we choose are based on our mood.
Yeah.
And if you kind of miss the window, if you're not in the mood to talk about it, then the conversation changes. Which is why I've been at some point, I don't know when, at some point we're going to start doing 2.0 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I want to implement that. I think that will be for one. There's a couple episodes that Rachel wasn't a part of in our early days, like our first 10, that I would love to have conversations with her about. Also, there are some movies where sometimes I look back like, damn, you ain't have to go that hard, my nigga. Like, there's Soul Plane conversation. I look back at it like, man, that was a little bit absurd. The real goal is to get you to look at Queen and Slim differently.
Oh, that's never gonna happen.
I figured it's not, but I figured I'd give it a shot.
But I enjoy watching it simply to hate watch. It's so stupid.
Yeah, it's a great hate watch. Speaking of hate watch, I got another movie that I want to do here soon.
Okay.
But yeah, the 2.0 idea, I think that could shake because there are some things that, depending on the new lens you look at, do I really feel that way about this movie, or did it just catch me at the wrong time?
Yeah.
And Crooklyn and I will say this too. There are some movies where you can't watch 2 or 3 times in preparation. Mm-hmm. You might as well take your notes on that first watch because the second time around is taxing and it feels like a chore. Mm-hmm. And when it starts feeling like a chore, it impacts how you discuss the film because you're thinking about it like I had to do this versus we just in the living room kicking it and talking shit about the film. So
that is so funny. I had tweeted it earlier. Yes, tweet. When you desire to do something, be involved with somebody, whatever, versus deign to do it, mm-hmm. It is evident. You can tell in the discussion. And so I'm interested in the 2.0s and maybe revisiting some things that I was deigning to record.
Yeah. No, I think that would be, I think we do have a nice selection of films or episodes that we've done that we can pull from that list and kind of take another listen and see if we still agree with certain things. Even my whole theory on Love and Basketball episode. Like I was dogging Q shit. You in school were on some, I'm like, nah, nigga, this Monica carried that whole shit. Yeah. So
but I'm done doing emotional labor for niggas.
Why do black men always have to fix everything? Shout out to the blackening. Okay, yeah, we'll have those conversations. There was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember exactly. But yeah, long story short, not a classic.
Not a classic.
As far as the origin for this film, there really wasn't much to it. People wanted to. There was a script. In 2018, it was announced that Chadwick Boseman was going to star in this film. It was titled 17 Bridges at first. Because if I'm not mistaken, and AJ can fact check this for me, but if I'm not mistaken, there are 21 exits from Manhattan, but they're not all bridges. I think there's 17 actual bridges and there's 4
Okay.
tunnels, which is
Got
how
it.
you get your 21.
Mm-hmm.
So they named it 17 after the bridges, but then we're like, all right, if you're basing this premise on shutting down Manhattan and you only shut down the bridges, I'm
You
sure
said,
people in New York would probably say, well, if you ain't shutting down the tunnels, then what's the point? So I
Mhm.
think they changed the name because of that. I think Chadwick also mentioned in an interview, one of the late night shows, about somebody's math was off as well, and that was also a part of it. So just something as simple as that. But he was cast in 2018. You had J.K. Simmons, Sienna Miller, Taylor Kitsch. They were all cast in September, so a few months later. And then you had the rest of the cast kind of following through towards the end. They filmed it in New York and Philadelphia. I think Keith David, like he was Stephen James. They all joined in October.
Okay.
And they kind of started right when, because they started filming this in September 24th of 2018.
Mm.
And like I said, Keith David, Stephen James, they didn't start until October. So they were already filming. And I think that's crazy and interesting to think about a movie that's in production, we're filming, and we don't even have some of these key characters cast yet.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what the hell were they shooting? The intro, the IAB scene,
They
maybe
were
the
pro-
ending.
maybe the ending. What I'd imagine happened is a lot of the stuff that they filmed with Chadwick without Stephen and Taylor Kitsch, I think they were probably filming that stuff in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, because they did film in Brooklyn as well. And I think they probably added them on when they were doing their New York shoots. Obviously, I'm sure everybody knows they don't shoot films like in sequence.
Yeah.
It's all based off budget and lighting and availability and everything else. So things can be out of order. But I think that was very interesting. I'm very curious to know how that actually played out. Chris Pratt was considered for one of the roles. It doesn't say which one. I'm assuming it would have been the Ray Jackson role, which is I always laugh at their names because Ray Jackson is black as shit, and
Extremely.
it feels like they got their names mixed up. But
Mhm.
they did tell the story about Ray World War Crack. We'll get to things that bother me. Some of the epithets were
Language. Yeah.
too much. Becky with the good, like, just stop. Don't.
That's after Lemonade.
I
So,
know, but still, don't. And that's the thing. It felt forced.
mm-hmm.
There's a way you can say that line where it doesn't feel forced, but
Yeah.
like I said, I don't want to jump ahead too far. And that's it. There's no real big, fancy, sexy story that comes with 21 Bridges. We got a cop movie. We got some stars that's going to star in it, and let's see what happens. So that's pretty much the ins and outs of that. Rachel,
Yes.
movie poster Hall of Fame?
No.
I don't think so either. Nah, this doesn't fit. Let's go ahead and move into best scenes and best moments. And I specifically say scenes / moments because, as Rachel and myself discussed before we press record, low key, this film is like 4 scenes, right? Like a lot of the action is just kind of continuation of one long thing. So it's hard to break it down in scenes, but I do want to have those moments that stand out to us throughout the film. And then we'll get into quotes in our other categories and get up out of here. So it's my week. I'll go ahead and start
Please.
the internal affairs scene at the very beginning. So it starts the scene with the funeral. So if you combine his dad's funeral with the internal affairs, we always talk about how we love when the beginning of a movie kind of tells us what we need to know about a character.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we're in this internal affairs scene, and we know that he has this reputation of being trigger happy.
Yeah.
And he tells them, like, everything was with just cause. Like, I'm not just out here shooting people. I know cops get a bad rap for being trigger happy, but I'm not one of them. I'm actually out here, nigga, my life is threatened. Somebody around me is threatened, and I have to take action. I won't hesitate to kill versus injure, but I'm also not out here picking the fights.
For sure.
And you can tell that internal affairs or somebody, the powers that be, were trying to get him jammed up.
Mm-hmm.
One too many, too much heat. Like, we need to get you off the street, but they weren't able to pin anything on him. He told the story about battle, Civil War, Vietnam, talked about the muskets, loading these balls on top of the other. Like 30% of people were fighting. So 3 out of 10 were fighting. What do you think the other 7 were doing? How did you interpret that scene, Rachel? How did you interpret that line?
Yeah, I didn't fucking know. Were the other 7 preparing, getting ready for battle, ensuring they were in place? I don't know. Helping?
I took that. So here's how I took that, and I could be completely wrong, and I love to hear from people with your thoughts. I took that as here is a man, and yes, we all know the conversations behind police. We also know, Rachel knows it closely, family member,
Mhm.
officer. So we know how that goes. But I think the other side of that is I personally would never want to be a police officer because that's crazy. Like it's just a lot of stuff. You got to be built a certain way to do that kind of job, right? You can tell Andre this is in his blood. He was born
Yeah.
to be a police officer. It felt natural. It
Mhm.
didn't feel like somebody who didn't have any options or
Mhm.
somebody who got kicked out of the military. So this is the only other thing I can do. I think what he was going through in that moment was I see the play. I see y'all trying to jam me up.
Mhm.
But you have no idea what it's like to be in my shoes. To quote Tony Soprano, you have no idea what it takes to be number one. So what the audacity of you being one of the 7 who get to sit on the sideline and judge me for what I'm doing when I'm
Mhm.
one of the 10 or 3 of the 10 that's out here actually fighting and
Yeah,
actually putting it on the line. Because if we switch roles, y'all can do what I do, but I can easily do what you do.
for sure.
So be sure you navigate and be sure you're aware of where you're sitting on your high post when you're
Mhm.
talking to me in this manner, because I'm the one that's actually getting shit done while you're sitting there judging me.
Yeah, pushing papers. That's
Yeah.
actually I like that. I like that take.
Yeah. I think that's what he meant from that, just pretty much, especially in the setting of how dare you judge me when you have no idea what it takes to do this job.
For sure.
And we're going to circle back to that at the very end of this movie.
Mhm.
And there's another conversation to be had. Did you want me to keep going or did you just want to chime in on what I got on my list?
We can do either because I
Yeah,
have
go ahead.
obviously the opening scenes as
Yeah.
well, just because to your point, it tells us what we need to know. My next scene doesn't take it takes us a while. Well, I include the whole shooting in the opening.
Okay, then the robbery scene,
The
the whole
robberies.
robbery. Okay.
Yeah. Because again, we meet Mike and Ray. We learn that something is awry. We can pretty much ascertain from the jump that the cops are involved in uh unscrupulousness.
Oh, I love it.
Thank
SAT word. SAT word.
thank you.
That's what I'm talking about.
So it from there, it kicked off the action very early into the movie. In the first 10 minutes, there is a shootout
Yeah,
and 300 keys of cocaine, pure.
pure. That pure raw. That yayo. Chi. I was at the barbershop before we started recording, and of course, nigga activity. Barbara was watching Scarface because why wouldn't he be?
And so your
And
lighting
there
is
was
good too.
I appreciate that. Thank
Just
you, man. Thank
earlier.
you. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to do a little something. New York City, here I come. Um, and it just made me think of the Chi. Get the yayo.
Yeah.
And Scarface. But yeah, 300 keys of that raw.
Mhm.
Come on now.
Crazy.
To your point, Rachel, I love when movies let things happen and kind of let you feel what you're supposed to feel.
Mhm.
We don't even know who these 2 are. We know they came in here to rob here, but we instantly are put into their point of view.
Yeah.
And we
No
get to
name.
see, like, hold on, like we weren't expecting this.
Mhm.
And you kind of get the build up of you got this guy here. I peeped, and maybe this because I've seen it so many times, him look at his watch, which is an instant indicator of all right, something's happening. Anytime I see somebody looking at their watch, they waiting on something. Or even when we
Right.
get to the end of the film, when he's on the phone and say, I got a visitor. That's cold.
For sure.
Nigga. Whoever I'm talking to, I got a visitor. That means I wasn't expecting nobody. You know I wasn't expecting nobody. Pull up.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But it was the thing that's most memorable to me about this scene is the guns and just the sound of those bullets.
Mhm.
This is some big boy. They said machine automatic suppress automatic weapons. They sounded like it. These are some
Yeah.
big boy bullets. Like they weren't playing around and they was wrecking shit. You knew they were very skilled. As far
Yeah.
as Ray Jackson is particularly
For
a
sure.
very skilled killer. You obviously have the officers go down. You see what type of characters these are because
Mhm.
Ray is the one that is doing, and he mentioned that I did all the killing.
Yeah.
Stefan has a heart. You could tell circumstances put it in this spot, but Ray wasn't going. I'm
Yeah.
not, bro. We leaving. Like, what are you talking about? You can watch or you can help. Like, I'm
Mm.
taking these drugs, and Stefan was the one with the brains. Like, bro, this is off.
Yeah.
Hell nah.
Yeah.
Like, we got to get up out of here. And then, of course, they didn't listen, so now they in all this shit. And he even tells them, like, slow down, don't run this red light. We just killed cops. I gotta go. And that's, of course, how they kick-started this whole thing. Not saying they wouldn't have found them anyway, but they made it a little bit easier. Maybe they buy a little bit more time.
For
But
sure.
they caused carnage. 2 people just killed 8 cops, fucked up their cars, and the whole 9. And then you get, and I'm gonna just keep going because this is all one big thing.
Mhm.
It rolls into Dre arriving at the crime scene.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess that would be my next scene. And Rachel, I'm just gonna tell you right now, one of my favorite things to witness is smart people being smart.
Mm-hmm.
I love people being smart, and I love seeing experts. I love seeing experts work in real time
Uh-huh.
and figuring things out. So him just surveying the crime scene in his head, playing out what happened.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 shooters. What makes you say that? Oh, because of the bullets and the way they're scattered over here. Like the way his knife fell, you can tell he didn't kill all these cops and stop this guy. So there had to be 2. How do you know there weren't 3? Because they left all these drugs. Like there's just, I just love the way you can instantly look at a scene and kind of break it down and have that expert opinion off it.
Now let me ask you, do you think that Captain and what's her name, Frankie, um, do you think they genuinely weren't picking up what Chadwick was putting down, what Dre was ascertaining from the scene, or they just ain't give a fuck?
You talking about J.K. Simmons' character?
Yeah.
So it's a mix of both. I
Okay.
think J.K. Simmons, he had to play it a certain way, right? And we know what it is. Even if you ain't got to be blue to understand. When blue go
Yeah.
down, that's a big deal. Like nigga, like head's gonna be cracked the whole 9. Like that's a man down. Like you see the service at the very beginning of the episode, New York's finest. You see all the cops, 21 gun salute, the whole 9. They riding. Even
Yeah.
Dre, he mentions like you shot 4 of us. You shot 8 of us. Like he didn't say them. You didn't say fellow officers. Us. They're included in that. So he knows that he's responsible for his men and woman. I think there was one woman in that crew being killed, but he can't play it off like that. He also is looking for answers, which is why I think they called in Dre. Because I was going to ask you, Rachel, why do you think they called Dre to take on that lead? Is it because of his internal affairs and his
Oh, for
history?
sure.
Like,
1000%. They called him because they wanted a shooter with a history of violence, quote unquote. So when it got, dare I say, messy, people wouldn't really blink an eye. 1, we've got cops down, and 2, this person is known to be a shooter. He's known to shoot suspects. So it doesn't look away. You know what I'm saying? Because he's the one who always does this. I was gonna ask you, I wrote this down. I felt like Burns and Cap were making it obvious that they just wanted Davis to just kill. I felt like they were giving themselves away. And maybe the first time I saw this movie, I didn't feel like that because I feel like I was surprised the first time I watched it. But having seen it so many times and even in preparation for this, I'm like, they are so obvious. This is dumb.
I think that's part of it. I think you've seen it, and it's one of those movies. Like I said, it doesn't really have any business being as good as it is. It should be one of those straight to streaming on Stars or Tubi.
Yeah.
But the acting in it makes it good. And yeah, after you watch it, it's very obvious. Like there's the tells are there.
Yeah.
Also, I think you can let it slide though, because as I just mentioned, you killed 8 cops. Of course he wants you to shoot. Like it's justifiable because they mentioned they were, and here's the thing I think that the movie was going for. They weren't shy about it.
Exactly.
Right? Because when he gets on the scene, he said, I heard you were at Internal Affairs today. And if it were up to me, you'd be right back in there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I want you pretty much. I want you to kill. I'm saying it without saying it. And then there's a scene which I also have down. The are you who they say you are? When Burns asks him directly, because like, I've never fired without just cause. You got eight officers down. That's your just cause.
Yep. Yeah.
7 at the time. I forget what they said. So they weren't hiding the fact that they wanted to kill him, and I think that might go in their favor because it would make sense for Andre to say, "Okay, I killed people in your unit got killed. Of course, you want the motherfuckers going." And I
Yeah.
think it was at that moment he started to put together. That's why I'm here. That's why y'all called me,
He
not
knew.
knowing that I'm a real live cop. I got to know what happened here.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
The
Um,
crime.
go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say the crime scene. I think if it wasn't for the left, if they took all of those keys,
Mm-hmm.
this movie's completely different. That was the dead giveaway because you see Burns, and Burns is doing her thing where she has to be a detective,
Mm-hmm.
but also not give up too much. So she's playing
Yeah.
the game of doing the back and forth with them because they're trying to figure out who has 300 keys of raw
Mm-hmm.
and only takes 50 of them.
Yeah.
Why only bring 2 men to this kind of job? You didn't know the cops were coming.
Yep.
B, you didn't know there was this many keys.
Mm-hmm.
And you weren't prepared for it. So obviously you got that played out. And even the scene and that same kind of thing, like I said, if I'm jumping around, my apologies because this is all one big thing. But when that feds show up with the deputy mayor or lieutenant mayor,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to take over the case, and I love when Andre in his head or on the fly pretty much said they have to be in Manhattan.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you why, because you can't move it up here. Brooklyn looks like this. Nobody's going to go uptown. That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
You can't go to Jersey. You know, Sopranos was a TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of did the Manhattan. And then they get the call on the car, like, you know, we found a car, BMW in Chinatown. Oh, where's Chinatown? Manhattan. Like, and
Manhattan.
then the Fed asked him, like, was that? Did you enjoy that? He said, yes, I did.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I did. I love making you look like an idiot. But once again, that kind of goes into the cops or somebody smart being smart on the spot. Like, I've been doing this job so long, and it kind of ties into what I said at the beginning. Nobody at this internal affairs table can just put together what I put together. That comes from a year of experience and good detective work. So how dare you say that I'm just some loose cannon when I'm out
Yeah.
here really one of the best y'all got?
Do you think the lieutenant mayor was in on it?
No, I think politics are politics. No, I don't think he was in on it. I think he was looking for a way to get reelected or have his mayor get reelected so he can stay in office. But I don't think they were a part of it. Because if he was, the movie definitely should have done a better job of explaining it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, what you got next?
My next scene is not until we get the backstory on Ray and Michael. So do you have
When they bust into old girl's house?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have anything before that.
Okay. So that's my next scene. And that's the same girl. If you watched what was the show with Jonathan Majors on HBO?
Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft. She was the white girl in that who was changing her body and shit. Shout out to her. I have that scene written down just because obviously love a good backstory. And to your point, Kyron, you've already said we learned that Michael was not like that. You know, circumstance put him in this situation. Whereas Ray, while yes, they're in the same neighborhood, but Ray, this poor white kid, probably getting picked on in the hood. You go join up in the service, become disenchanted, whatever. Love a good backstory, but I have it because it's also a thing that bothered me. The fact that she slapped Andre.
Hey, Rachel, it's in my notes. It's in my notes. It's the first thing and things that bother me.
It is the first thing and things that bother me because, bitch, what the fuck is you on?
Mm-hmm.
You're not that tough abroad, you know. That you are smacking this police officer. And I know if it was a white officer, you wouldn't have did that. That would not
think
have
so?
No.
What bothered me the most is 8 cops are killed. We found evidence linking it to you. If you really slapped him, you would have got monkey dunked on that floor so quick because we already on edge. Give me a reason.
That part.
And
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say he told Burns to chill, but she wouldn't have had time. You know what I'm saying? If it was really that intense, it wouldn't have went down like that. And now I'm about to get you for assaulting an officer. Stop fucking playing with me.
That part. They quit. They'll listen. Easily assault for an officer, and I've never seen. I don't. It's not a raid, but I've never seen a bust down like that where the person who was inside is so offended that they strike an officer either. Like you got to know. Yeah, you can be upset. You can cuss them out, but for your first instinct, as soon as you take the cuffs off you, to turn around and slap them, that doesn't even seem feasible. Like you grew up. You don't seem like somebody who's privileged enough to think that you can hit an officer and nothing happened. Like you grew up in this area. That's what I'm saying. Like you should know how this works. Sometimes the game is the game. Like it just didn't make sense. Like why? Who? Somebody should have been on set to say, "Yo, is that realistic?"
And it wasn't.
Not
It was. I would think that the first thing would be fear. And yes, okay, fuck 12. Howsoever, that is that just is not a realistic response. And maybe I had to go there. I thought that when I saw it, sitting in fucking Delta Comfort. This is racial. Because why the fuck are you slapping him? That is just not a genuine. It might be genuine. You might obviously want to smack the police who ran up in your house. You laid up. Now your niggas on the floor. But that's just not a reaction that would realistically happen in the real world. So I was very put off by that.
You mentioning that, Rachel?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just now thinking in real time. That's what separates stuff like that is what separates this from the Negotiator.
Yeah.
Negotiator doesn't have moments like that. That's what a moment you just described. That's why this movie's not a classic.
Yeah.
Because you have to be kind of as flawless as possible. And that's just so unrealistic that it bothers me. And listen, I love Soul Plane, y'all. I love Soul Plane. So who am I to say something bothers me? But when you're really having a good job and setting the tone for a film, little small stuff like that can turn somebody like me away. It's not going to make me stop watching it, but every time I see it, I just like, what the fuck? Come on now.
Yeah. I don't like that shit. And so I know, obviously, she's a gutter ball white bitch. So they wanted to press that. But to your earlier point, it just felt forced. So even this is where we get Burns saying, who's Becky with the good hair?
Another thing that bothered me. I hated it.
I understand everybody was saying that, but culturally,
yeah, man, like
two white girls saying Becky with the good hair, it just doesn't work because we don't equate. Never mind, but yeah, it just doesn't go.
It didn't work. It didn't work. It's one of those moments. If I was on set, I'm like, hold on, like. Where's the authenticity? Because this does not seem like something like say who is she? Or you have to have the right person to say that line or deliver it a certain way. It just didn't curl all the way over, as you like to say, Rachel.
It did not curl. They could have said, whose skirt is he chasing? Like they could have said something else that probably would have better fit.
Hey, who's he fucking?
Who's he fucking?
Something as simple as that.
Who's the broad?
Exactly.
Something that fit these two white women having this conversation. But who is Becky with the good hair? I ain't going. Yeah. But again, backstory on Mike and Ray. Already we saw, you've already talked about Mike being the cerebral one, softer. I don't want to call him a gentle giant because he ain't tall, but obviously in comparison to Ray Jackson, who is a stone cold killer, a skilled killer, you know, it just the difference in hearing how they grew up and the personalities and the trauma as to which we understand. Then we get to the Pan Am. That's not really a favorite scene of mine, but again, I felt like everybody was making it obvious. And maybe that's something that bothered me about the movie too, is I understand that you want to exact revenge, but it just felt over the top from everybody. And yes, adrenaline is high and emotions are high, but I feel like while trying to cover their tracks, they were also moving very sloppily, because I feel like, yes, I can ask Davis, are you who they say you are? Because he's not in 85. He's just an
Yeah.
officer. You know what I'm saying? Or a detective, whatever he was. But they were learning also in real time that, yeah, he that nigga, but he ain't really who we thought he was either. Like, to your point, he's a real cop.
Mhm. Yeah, and he's not as emotionally tied to this, and I thought he would be. Like
Yeah,
the reputation that he has means like, oh, cops down, it's on, it's up.
it's on.
What we got to do, and now they're finding out that he's not. And what's even worse, they're finding out that he's smart
For sure.
because he once again quickly put together.
For sure.
Like he pulled a 38. Like these niggas got suppressed machine automatic weapons, and this nigga pull out the same type of gun you find in the meth addicts, glove box.
Or a
Like,
fat
that shit
cop.
don't add up. Or a fat cop's ankle. You feel me? Like, come on, bro. Like, who you trying to play? Who you trying to fool right now? Like, I'm offended y'all think I would go for this. And that's cool. Like, I know every other officer in the city right now would go for it. They understand it's justifiable, but come on now.
Yeah.
Like, that shit ain't going. Back to that scene you just said about the origin, you also have that moment when you find out about Mike. I think she said he could have been anything if he just been born anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's obviously something that happens. You see these smart people who just get caught up. I've said the line before, but Nas has a line on the song Triple Beam Dreams would have been Ivy League if America played fair.
Mm-hmm.
And that just goes with the story. But it says a lot about Michael's character and how they move forward. And also, I think Ray, because usually the character of Ray is a menace.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say he's a bully, but very intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a deference that he had to Michael. Like he knew when to let Michael talk.
Mm-hmm.
Michael seemed like the only one that could talk him down.
Yeah.
Which we'll go ahead and talk about it. So
And
I
Ray
had that
was
scene,
older.
and Ray was older, 6 years older, right? So, and as the old girl said, Ray protects him now. So if Ray has the form of a protector, normally they take that serious in all angles. Think of Four Brothers. Think of Bobby. Was that Mark Wahlberg's character, Bobby?
Yeah.
I can't think of their last name. Either way, he's big bro.
Yeah.
In all aspects of that.
Mm-hmm.
Ray is on some like, nah, like I respect who you are in your hustle. Like I respect what you bring to the table. You're an expert in your field.
Yeah.
I'm an expert in mine, but when it's time for you to cook, I'm gonna let you cook.
Mm-hmm.
But not even the expert part. Like I said, the deference, the talking him down when he, like I said, I'll combine this scene. Switzerland. I call it Switzerland. The dude that cleans the money.
Addie's house.
Yes, Addie's house. Don't close that safe. Like I'm not buying this shit. This ain't us.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me he gonna take this money? We get a gift card and then we just on about our way. Nah, something feel off.
Mm-hmm.
And he really looked at it and broke down the situation like, let me remind you where we are. Like, we have to do this, otherwise it's over. And he was like, all right, cool. And it sounds like the way they built that character of Ray up, he was the type that doesn't care. I'm shooting everybody. He's a hothead.
For sure.
I love the fact that we get to Switzerland. We have that moment. And then we cut to your scene that you just talked about with old boy getting shot.
Yeah.
Then you go back to Switzerland.
Yeah.
When they're really working everything out, you hear this banging at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Now the cops there, and it goes into the scene you just mentioned where it ties together, where now as a viewer, you're starting to think, damn, how did these two officers, which you met earlier in the film, how did they get here and know the dude was here before I found out? And even Andre even asked, like, how the hell did they find out? And when they got the call about Lewis, when Lewis called it in, we need backup.
Yeah.
I think that's the moment when he actually looked over and said, how the hell did they find him?
Yeah.
And we don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm the lead on this. Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, there's too much stuff going on. This shit ain't making sense. And I think when you're really, like I said, a cop's cop, it's in your blood. That's the type of shit that makes them not sleep at night. It's not the bodies that they can rightfully justify. It's there's something bigger going on here, and I'm not fucking with it.
For sure.
To tie in the last scene, he mentioned a line like that blood can't be on the badge. That's not the type of blood that can be on the badge.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they just fuck with the wrong cop. Like they thought that he was all the way down for their fuckery, and he wasn't.
And he wasn't. And I think that this is also the first time we see him sort of side eye burns a little bit, but really know that something is afoot. That's deeper than rap, you know. So
absolutely.
we didn't talk about it, but that LMSI call, Burns got it. Just how Kelly and the rest of the gang was tipped off as to where the guys were. But again, Dre doesn't know this shit, but we saw him kind of side eye. She says it was my sitter for my daughter, but your sitter knew you was coming into work.
And you so pumped up about this shit. And I get it's your kids, right? Your kids. We don't have kids, so
Yeah.
I've never received an urgent call from a child who absolutely needs me. But sitter, 8 cops just got shot. I'm not gonna be available. Whatever it is, figure that shit out. Unless it's literally life or death.
Yeah.
Like, don't call me to check in on shit. I don't care. You got it.
That part.
Like, if you gotta leave, take them with you. Like, it's one of them nights. Like, I'm not answering this is gonna be an all night type of thing, however long it takes type of thing. So it did seem a little bit odd. And like we mentioned, Dre's too smart for that.
For sure.
I ain't going. I know I mentioned the battle in Switzerland and them escaping, and that rolls right into the whole. This is the first time we actually have eyes on the shooters.
Yeah.
Like, Dre is actually in the same vicinity. Burns is in the same vicinity. And Dre finds Ray and Mike. He ends up killing Mike, not before he kills a innocent civilian. And the conversation between Mike as he has Burns, air quotes, hostage.
Yeah.
And really trying to put a lot of this together. And once again, showing Mike's smarts and just saying this is still bad. We knew because Mike said it from jump. We need to leave.
Yeah.
And Ray was the one that he raised the reason why they're in the situation. But he knew, like, you are the only cop who asks first and then shoots. Like, the whole scene didn't make sense. The cops showed up like they were expecting it. They knocked on the door like Jehovah's Witnesses.
Yeah.
They didn't even use the side of the door like a cop. They didn't even do it like a cop normally does it. Like, that was all planned. I seen the dude check his watch. Like, there's something bigger going on here, and we got to be the fall guy for that. And even you can tell, like I said earlier, so I don't want to regurgitate it too much, but it mattered so much that Dre found the truth versus killing the people who killed 8 cops. And he was also smart enough to know you weren't the one that was actually out there doing this killing because, and he said it, if you were, you would have shot her by now. That's when it'd be a conversation. You would have shot her and busted at me by now. Like, so there's something else, and I kind of could see that, and we need to get to the bottom of what that is. And that's when, especially on rewatches, when he mentioned 85, Burns started going crazy when he said that. You don't believe this motherfucker shoot him? Like, the signs are there.
The signs are there. She was giving herself away the whole time. In that little meat market, to be the narcotics, like, you don't have a poker face that you really supposed to have, and I understand maybe having to put on air, but in all of that tweaking to get Dre to shoot him, ma'am, your slip is showing. You're giving yourself up. And again, I felt like Dre, he side-eyed her about Switzerland and them being there. But now I felt like there's a glint in his eye this time too. Yes, I'm listening to what Mike is saying, but I'm also looking at you tweak out. But because I am a cop's cop, and it is in my blood, and remaining level-headed in all of this. Like, I'm in control of the situation, despite you actively, I don't want to say try to make it a hostile situation, because yes, my quote unquote partner with a gun to her head, that is technically a hostile situation. And in any other scenario would be grounds for taking the shot.
Yeah.
Howsoever, it's deeper than rap. It's some shit afoot, and I got to know what it is. And Mike want to tell me.
Mike wants to. That's a key point, Rachel. I'm glad you said that. He wants to. I don't have to force this out of him.
Yeah.
It's almost like if Burns wasn't here, we would be having this little brainstorm session about what the fuck is going on. Because Mike said none of this makes sense. And we talk about how smart Dre is and how instinctive he is. He said it. For guys like Ray, I'm natural causes.
Yeah.
Like, that's the type of motherfucker that he's going. There's only a couple ways he's dying. He's leaving this earth.
That part.
Right?
That part.
I'm natural causes for somebody like him. But for you, I know it's different. And I know you got something you want to tell me. And I
Mhm.
know what you're telling me is not bullshit because
Yeah.
it makes sense and it lines up with everything.
Yep.
Somebody's trying to hide some shit
Yep.
and they're using the guise of 8 cops got killed. We have free range to do whatever it is. It's kind of like a cop purge.
Exactly. Exactly. And I don't, it is low key a thing that bothers me. And I mean, we've got to get, this is essentially the end, but there is the end of the movie
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
discuss. But I don't know. Y'all, we've talked about it before. One of my parents was a police officer. Um, and they were off the street. I don't know. I think I was born when they were still on the street, but blah 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 blah. I just don't know that revenge cycle looks like that in an officer involved shooting. That rage, like I'm saying, everybody is giving themselves away. Like you're telling your hand with this frenzy for blood. And yes, revenge. Yes, 8 of our brothers and sisters in blue are down. Yes, but also y'all look crazy as fuck.
Look, wow.
And no matter what y'all do, yes, Dre can be the one who pulls the trigger, even though he wasn't essentially. Um, if they would have been left to their own devices without Dre being there and without him sort of, I mean, not even sort of, without him really figuring out what was what, once Ray and Mike were dead, y'all not getting the pat on the backs that y'all was giving each other in the movie without the rest of this happening. Does that make sense? I feel like I
Absolutely.
spaced
I
out.
know, I know, I know exactly what you're saying.
That's not gonna play well in the public, despite yes, 8 officers down, this, that, and the third. Y'all look fucking nuts. Because when the Pan Am girls get to talking about how the police came in there shooting shit up, because they weren't discreet with their shot. Y'all just came in guns blazing with that little 38.
Yeah. Well, they shot him with the pistol or the Glock. They tossed the 38
Yeah.
on the floor and put that on him.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
they just
yeah.
gave whatever call they said, like, put it down or whatever. And then just
Mhm.
everybody saw that. Like, nah, niggas ain't pulled nothing out. Had his back turned to him.
Exactly. So when you really get into it, it's something was gonna come out about this shit being funny, regardless, because of how reckless they were being, in this again frenzy to cover their
Funny,
asses.
funny
'Cause
little
it wasn't
thing.
about the 8 officers being down. Y'all trying to cover y'all asses.
That's exactly what's going down. And that's a conversation to be had just on the sidebar of movies with a twist.
Mhm.
The ones that stand out are the ones where when you know the twist is coming, but it's still an incredible movie. I think so much about there's just so much that you pick up. Like you shouldn't even be able to pick up this, but it's so obvious when you watch it the second time.
Yeah,
But if you liked it, then it is what it is. But it is very clear. It was made. It felt like it was made for a first watch.
for sure.
Right? It's kind of like one of those like I don't know. Sixth Sense is probably better than that, but like just those big moments when you just reveal it, and once you have that and you
Yeah.
rewatch it, it's not the same.
You said it perfectly earlier. It's a perfect plane movie.
Yeah, it's a perfect plane movie. Absolutely. Absolutely. That kind of wraps us up into obviously we know going from what you were just talking about. Um, Mike goes and finds out what's on the laptop.
Mhm.
Obviously knocks dude out, escapes in the back. He gets seen as soon as he steps outside. He switches the suit. Um, gets seen outside. He gets tracked down on the train. Have the conversation. Looks like he's giving it up. Boom. He gets shot.
Mhm.
Which was one of those like, yes, it's an aha moment, but it's also watching the movie. You know it has to go that way.
Yeah.
You know you can't take him in cuffs.
Yeah.
You just don't know how it's gonna happen. So obviously she puts it down. And what the fuck? What
Mm.
the fuck, man? You didn't see the gun down? You didn't see the fucking gun down?
Shout out to Chadwick's dialect. He's good for picking up somebody's accent. Shout out to his little New York accent.
Shout out to his little New York accent, man, because he definitely and you felt that was the final answer.
Yeah.
And then luckily Ray, not Ray, Mike was still alive.
Mhm.
Was able to give him the passcode. Similar to like Adi,
Yeah.
said the same thing.
Mhm.
Gave him the passcode, and that leads into our final scene of. Well, let me talk about the last scene that bothered me before we get there. Last thing that bothered me was when you asked to see Burns' phone, at least make a call.
At least make a call. Yeah.
Just to cover, because you're too smart to not cover your tracks.
Mhm.
You're smart enough to know, let me check her phone to see who she actually been talking to.
Yeah.
So you should also be smart enough to say, hey, if I ask to borrow her phone, let me actually make a call, because otherwise she might look at her phone and realize, damn, I thought he asked to see my phone. Like, he didn't use it. Now maybe I'll put two and two together. It's a minor thing. I don't think it's as big as the other ones, but it is something I would have liked to see the movie clean up a little bit better.
I thought the exact same thing. And the only thing that I think he would be able to, I don't want to say justify, but answer that's like, oh, I deleted the number. I called, it went straight to voicemail. I just deleted it just because you need to know who in my shit.
Yeah, that's fair. And she didn't have any reason to suspect that he knew what was going on. So it kind of plays out. So I'll give you that. But going into the final scene, the one question I asked, and just a quick recap, Dre knows what's going on. He got the answers. He's got the hard drives. He's already put out in the world. You have the Captain McKenna. Is that his name? JK something? Yeah, he comes in. He's on the phone with his air quote wife. Really one of the officers trying to figure out how to clean up this mess.
Yeah.
And Chadwick pretty much lays it out. Dre pretty much lays it out about what happened. Like I read the files. I put two and two together like he has been on movie. And even Captain McKenna says, you're good. He gives the speech about the life of a cop, life of an officer in New York's finest. He mentioned a city that they have to commute hours or a long distance because they can't afford to live here. And they're protecting a city that actively dislikes them. The divorce rate's down. I went to 2 funerals. Guys drank themselves to death. This isn't about jewelry and Benzes or foreign cars, whatever he said. This is about a life. This is about maintaining. Do you have any empathy for what started out as, hey, because in that scene, I think they did a good job of this wasn't supposed to happen. It was never the plan for somebody to get hurt. But we quickly realized you got to get it how you live. And if the criminals are out here being dirty, why can't we tax them for their dirtiness when it is when you directly look at it, it's a victimless crime. Moving drugs and all that, yes, being poured in the streets is one thing, but we're not directly putting these on into the hands of the users. Users are going to use anyway. I think he was trying to justify it as no harm, no foul.
You can't.
This is gonna happen regardless. I think that's a mindset. That's probably the best way to say it. This is gonna happen regardless. So we might as well monitor it and profit from it.
Yeah.
And he tried to take that spiel, which isn't gonna work on somebody like Dre. Like my dad got shot. My dad got killed in the line of duty, bro. Like there's nothing you're gonna tell me about what it is to be a cop.
Yeah.
But do you have any kind of empathy for, you know what? It is a fucked up life. Y'all don't get paid enough. Y'all deal with a lot of anxiety, mental disturbance. Was there anything that he said that would have made you look at that a little bit different, or is it still like, bruh, shut the fuck up with that noise?
It shut the fuck up with that noise for me. One, stealing clothes is a victimless crime.
Fair. That's fair.
Pumping drugs into the community is not.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's the biggest thing for me. And I'm always kind of, I don't want to say put off, but I always question a lot of these movies and shows where all these cops are saying, woe is me, there's not enough money, we don't have. And candidly, it could very much be the Midwest. But I'm like, we lived pretty good.
Yeah.
We live pretty good. It's private school, and I know that holy roller ain't.
Yeah, she ain't. Yeah. She ain't
a
skimming off the top.
school. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. That's always such an interesting thing for me because what is the lifestyle that you're looking to live? And candidly, yes, New York is one of the most expensive cities in the country, shit, in the world.
Yes.
I don't know. So yes,
Yes.
I understand, but is that salary not comparable to the cost of living, given the nature of it, given the way the politics behind
You,
police are? Y'all got a union. It's a police union now.
do police officers? You think police officers get paid more than teachers?
Yes.
Okay, I figured as much. I just didn't know for sure.
Yeah.
Teachers are like on the bottom of the list.
Exactly. Garbage men and women get paid more than teachers. So
It is kind of wild to, as you say it in real time. That was me, my bad. As you say it in real time, it is kind of wild to justify 8 dead bodies on the street and a gruesome assassinated, in a sense, technically not assassinated, but murdered in cold blood.
For sure.
In the way that they were by, here was the reason, this is the spark of all of it. Because it sounds, you know what, listening to you, it kind of sounds worse.
Yeah. And not all of them was involved in the shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
That blood is on your hands.
And he knew, I think it's TVs and movies do a good job of letting you know cops can't go to jail. Cops can't go to jail.
Yeah.
Cops, child molesters, like all of that stuff, famously, bro, you go to jail, it's over for you.
Yeah.
And Captain knew that, and that's why suicide by cop.
That's it.
Dre told him, don't do it. And go figure, circle back to the beginning of the film, Internal Affairs. He did not shoot anybody that wasn't just cause. He said he didn't shoot first, and he never did.
Yeah.
Minor thing that bothers me. I don't know if the him and Burns conversation at the end happens in that way. I much rather I would have rather the movie ended without Burns showing up and her getting. I would have rather seen a little small montage of her be getting handcuffed and taken out, versus her coming with the gun. I don't know if she's going out like that. She's the last person standing. I don't know if she really believes that he has all of these out there in the world and she buys his speech. But she also could have spent enough time with him in that one night to know, I don't take this man, somebody who's like telling stories. He doesn't. There's a quote in The Wire. Brother Muzone is talking to Avon about Omar getting shot. Right? And Brother Muzone told Avon about, in reference to Omar, he doesn't strike me as the man who would tell a story, even at the expense of saving his own life. In other words, some people just got a certain thing about them.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain authenticity, a certain code that you carry. And Andre had that code. And I don't think he says things just to say them. Every other officer said things just to say them and try to wiggle themselves out of things. Yeah. I think he was very genuine. Everything he said happened. And everything he felt, he was very authentic and upfront about it. So maybe that's part of the reason I'm trying to talk myself into it in real time. But her having the gun pointed at him, it just seemed like there might have been a little bit more drama, or maybe she should have ended up shot too. Not should have, but something would have triggered him to shoot her because she would have got froggy and leapt.
I think that she knew her goose was cooked.
He told her, man, like,
he's killed everybody else. All these other officers who got to shoot the same targets as me.
You know I'm surgical with this bitch, Jake.
Exactly that. So I think once she really got in that motherfucker and seen the carnage, I said that twice tonight, but seen the damage done, seen the bodies, the bodies hit the floor. And again, they were together all night. To your point, you know he ain't bullshitting. Cap tried to shoot his way out. You see how that went. I think when he said, your daughter doesn't deserve to grow up without a mother. You can go to jail for a couple years, but do you want to die?
You get life in prison. You pull that trick, you get life.
Come on.
It's over.
It's a wrap. It's a wrap. And so
Once again, cop in jail, it's all bad. And you don't really have much protection because the guards ain't gonna fuck with you. You got cops killed.
you got cops killed and you're dirty. You're dirty. Yeah. Shout out to Jersey.
Shit, man. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always, like I said, the ending never really curled all the way over for me, but you knew how the movie's gonna end. I mentioned Negotiator. Movie kind of ends in the same way. Not the gunfire in that sense, but you just kind of know the bad guys are gonna get caught. The corrupt officer's gonna get caught.
Yeah.
The whole conspiracy is gonna be revealed and everything else. So let's talk about some best quotes. I don't know if you have anything that you haven't said already.
Not a one.
Okay, then got you.
That was that might be the only thing we didn't say.
Only two I have, and this isn't a very quotable movie. These aren't Hall of Fame quotes, but in reference to watching the film, the only two I have are, he's one of those detail-oriented motherfuckers. I know we didn't talk about that scene, but just Mike just letting you know, like, bro, like, I know how this game is. I know how much we should begin. I'm giving you a massive discount, like a 80% discount.
Yeah.
Because I got to get out of Dodge. But don't think I'm just this regular person walking in your shit.
Right.
I know what's going on. Now you're gonna help me. He got what he needed. And then lastly, no one cheats a man who knows where all their money is. That's a bar. Okay, I'm like, this is all cash to wire transfers. I'll withdraw that shit so quick. If you try to play me, stop fucking around.
Please.
Scene stealer. So this one's a little bit different because it's an ensemble cast.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say outside of Chadwick, who was your favorite performance in the film?
Stefan,
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. J.K. Simmons, him and Keith David, I wish they gave a little bit more to do.
Yeah.
Wish they gave him a little bit more to do, but I've said the same. Stephen is by far, Stephen James, my favorite performance. I really enjoy him in everything I've seen him in. Things that bother you, we talked about that. Any actors from The Wire? No. Wouldn't let that happen to me. I don't think any of this is avoidable.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
I think everything is by situation, and once you win it, you win it. No trivia for the movie, really. I just talked about the bridges and all that kind of good stuff, but nothing that stood out is worth really writing home about. So we're going to get to the end of the episode where we discuss the rating for the film.
Mm-hmm.
Ray P, the average viewer, rates this film a 6.6 out of 10. Too high, too low, just right.
Just right. I might go too low. I might give it a solid 7.
I think that's fair. I think 7 is there. I don't feel good giving it anything above a 7.
Mm-hmm.
I think 7 is there. It is a movie that I'll watch again multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of any other movies like it outside of The Negotiator that I might watch first. But either way, I think it deserves a 7. I'm cool with that. And it is something that will stay in rotation no matter how often I watch it. In a low-key different type of way. And I'm thinking about this because of how entertaining the movie is. Once again, it's not a good movie. I've asked you about this a couple of times. I told myself I was going to stop saying it to you, Rachel, because I don't want you to think that I'm keep mentioning this because it's going to blow you away, because it's not. But the theme and the premise, the overall like kind of story, even though it's told a different way, you had the same beginning, middle, and end. Rebel Ridge.
I almost watched that when I finished watching this earlier, because the preview came on right after.
Yeah, because it's in the same vein. It's in the same kind of corruption.
Yeah.
What's going on? Let's get to the answer of it. Bad guys don't get theirs. Like it's in that same vein of that film. Okay. Like I said, not the same movie. So I don't want, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to say that and you think it's going to be the same thing. I don't even want you to think it's good. It's something. It's very polarizing. It's a very polarizing film. I liked it because I like that type of stuff.
Okay.
But if you didn't like it, I can definitely understand you saying that you don't like it. A lot of people didn't. I was talking to Spike. Spike said it's an action movie with no action. But the storyline, it's cool.
Okay.
So either way,
I still haven't play, but I'm gonna do that and let you know what I think.
like I said, please don't rush. The last thing I wanted to do is make it seem like this is something you absolutely need to stop everything and watch. It's not that, but when you get to it, just let me know what it is.
I will.
I said I'll watch it again, but I haven't watched it again. I've only watched it once, so maybe that says something too. As much as I enjoyed it, I haven't double backed on it.
Okay.
Perfect plane movie. Perfect plane movie.
Okay.
Ray P, a rose, a bouquet, or the whole damn garden?
A rose.
I'm giving it a bouquet.
That's what. What if I gave it like a half a bouquet? I ain't gonna give you 12, but I might.
You're not giving the roses. You're giving the carnations.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you 6 stems.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you the stems. Let's say you're not even. These are dandelions, carnations, sunflowers. You don't get the roses. You don't get the big shit. I'll give you some bouquet. Yeah, okay, that's fair. That's fair. It's up there with watchability. Just a very watchable movie.
Because I enjoy it, but it's for what it is. It's a lot of
what it is. I think you're absolutely right. So that brings us to the end of the episode. We appreciate y'all as always. Thank you for adjusting to our schedules. This is the second week that we're recording on Thursday, which means we're released on Friday instead of Thursday. Rachel and myself are working out the schedule. We're getting back to it. We got a lot of big things coming up. Episode 100 is nearing. We'll talk a little bit more about that as it gets closer. We got a Halloween episode coming for y'all this month with a guest on that. Just everything. So, Rachel, you already know what it is. I always appreciate it. This is the highlight of my week. I love you. You already know what it is. This is Kyron signing off. You know what I mean? I think we bringing the government just back into it, man. I think
we're gonna bring the government back. Okay.
Yeah, I think we're just gonna get it back into it.
I really call you Kyron. I think I only call you Rich, like on the podcast.
Yeah, people that know me call me Kyron. Some people call me Rich or K Rich. Don't get me wrong, but for the most part, it's just
in there.
I never introduced myself as Rich to people.
Yeah.
It just kind of became this thing on the pod because the only reason I even started using Rich is because, and this is honesty, I got tired of ordering takeout food and them calling my name and fucking it up.
Kieran.
Right? Yeah, Kieran, Karan. Like, I just got tired of that. So I just started using Rich because who's going to fuck up Rich? Right? So that's the reason I even started doing it. I'm like, all right, it's easier to, I guess, pronounce or whatever. But, there's only a few. Kyron's now blowing up as far as the name, but nobody spells it like me. But that's neither here nor there. Either way, I'm rambling. We out of here. We're going to see y'all next week. Until then, y'all be cool. How y'all be cool?
Friday Richardson. I bid you. Bye, y'all.
Good. We out, man. Peace.